Andy Harris, I went off on Andy Harris a week or so ago, and I know a lot of you called his office. And back when he had inserted into a must-pass piece of legislation in the House of Representatives, appropriations legislation, a rider, an amendment that would have ended the decriminalization of pot in Washington, D.C., which went into effect yesterday? No, it was a couple days ago. Anyway, it might have even been last Thursday or Friday. I think it was last Thursday, as I recall. But it's funny because I'm pretty sure it was Thursday because Friday night, Louise and I were having dinner at, or it was Sunday night. We were having dinner at Dukem, which is this incredible Ethiopian restaurant here in D.C. It's almost as good as Dalos, the best Ethiopian restaurant in the world. But Dalos is in Portland, Oregon. And anyway, we were having dinner at Dukem, and they've got an outdoor sitting, and we were sitting outside, and twice somebody walked by smoking dope, and you just sit there, smell it. Oh, hey, look at that. Because D.C. dropped the penalty down to $25 in a parking ticket, right? No criminal record for up to an ounce. And so Andy Harris inserted into this legislation a bill that said D.C. can't do that because D.C. is not a state. It's the federal city. It was originally the city of the goddess, right? There's an amazing story behind it that, Jefferson wasn't so involved in this. Ben Franklin and, some of the guys around him, and George Washington and some of his buddies, they were Masons. These guys were mystics. And they thought, okay, we're doing something historic. I mean, there was the Greek democracy, there was the Roman Republic, and now we're creating the American Democratic Republic, a representative democratic republic. And so we have to have something like the Greeks and Romans did. We have to have a goddess. And we've got plenty of gods, right? All the major religions that are represented here in what will become the United States, they all have gods. They're all men. They all have penises. We've got to have a goddess. And so they invented one. They literally created her out of whole cloth. And she's on the top of the Capitol building. And there is a law in the city that says you cannot build any building taller than the top of the goddess's head. Darrell Issa is trying to blow it up, but it's the law. And that's why there's no skyscrapers in D.C. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. Yeah, there's a picture of her right there. Jim is showing her on the top of the Capitol building. That's the tallest point in Washington, D.C. If you could climb up on her head, every building in the city is below that in the district. And the other thing that they said, actually there's a number of things. They put her on our coins. She was on our coins from the George Washington administration until Ronald Reagan took her off the coins. She's in the entryway or lobby or on the literature for pretty much every government agency. The Department of Defense, she's out in front of the Pentagon. Or I don't know. I've never been to the Pentagon, but I've heard that she's there. She's in one of the entryways holding a shield and a handful of arrows. In the Department of Labor, she's holding a bundle of wheat and a sigh. For the Department of Justice, John Ashcroft, famously, she's there with one breast showing, blindfolded and holding the scales of justice. And John Ashcroft was offended by that naked breast, and so he put a blanket over it for the 3 years for most of the Bush administration. So she represents us all over the place. The French were so in love with her and the idea of her that they gave us a statue of her who is in the harbor in New York City. And when they invented this goddess, they said, she's got to have a name. So what name do we come up with? How do you name a goddess? And they said, well, let's take Christopher Columbus's name. He's kind of thought of as the founder of Europeans in North America. Let's take Christopher Columbus's name and feminize it. And so they simply invented this goddess called Columbia. And then they said, and let's make a city that is dedicated to the goddess. It is the district of the goddess. And anybody who lives and works in this district must be doing the goddess's work. This is such a noble work, government. This is such noble work that the people living in the district of the goddess cannot have any self-dealing. They cannot do things in Congress that would enrich themselves. They will have no representation in Congress. When they go to the district to do the work of the goddess, they give up their right to have self-interest. They must give of themselves to the public. And that's why our license plates say taxation without representation. We have Eleanor Holmes Norton, who, just in the past couple of decades, was given the right, our representative from the District of Columbia, given the right to speak on the floor of the House of Representatives, but she has no right to vote. And we have no senators. And although we have a population greater than Vermont and Oklahoma, there's over 600,000 people in this city. And as long as the city was majority black, there was no way that the Republicans would entertain any notion about, hey, let's give statehood to D.C. And they're still fighting it because it's mostly a Democratic city. However, it's gentrifying at an amazing rate. And I predict that, when the Republicans, when they've got, when this becomes a majority white city and a majority upper middle class city, which is the gentrification that's happening because of all the lobbyist money that's flooded into D.C. It's 35,000 registered lobbyists in this town. There was only 800 when Reagan came into office. And thus all this money. That eventually, the Republicans will come around and say, oh, gee, yeah, a lot of white people. Let's talk about statehood. But anyhow, Andy Harris, today, no, it's Thursday, it's tomorrow, from 11 to noon, a bunch of people here being led by one of the D.C. council members. It's called D.C. Councilmember Andy Harris Constituent Service Day. They're saying, okay, Andy Harris, even though you're the congressman from Maryland, if you think that you represent the district because you're trying to change the rules that we made here for ourselves, you can take care of our other problems. So you got a dead rat in your backyard? Bring it to Andy Harris. You got a pothole in the street out in front of your yard? Take a picture of it. Bring it to Andy Harris. You got a problem with the police department? Write it up and bring it to Andy Harris. And so people with complaints that would normally go to the city council or the mayor's office, they're all showing up at Andy Harris's office tomorrow here in Washington, D.C. This is going to be hysterical.